Welcome to the Social Podcast, brought to you by Another World Media and F the Box Movement. It's time for real talk with real people. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Social Podcast. I am your host, Mona Cedillo, and I am super excited to have this next guest speaker. I am going to brag and say I got first dibs to him after he made this announcement. But before we go into that, I want to go ahead and introduce him. For those of us that are in Denver, that are in Colorado, they're in the music industry, you know this person because he does fantastic work. He's a great human being. Listeners, welcome Chris Sacker. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. I do a lot of these podcasts, and I wasn't planning on, didn't know that this one was set up right after I was going to make an announcement. So you lucked out, I guess.
I did.
Or I backed myself into a corner, one of the two.
That's okay. That's okay. So for our listeners, I know Chris through his work in the music industry. Specifically, I really knew him more through his work with the Levitt Pavilion. For those of you who don't know what that is, you need to crawl out from under the rock. No,
they do. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. 3 years ago, somebody said that he's with Levitt Pavilion, and then they go through what Levitt is. Mm-hmm. I expect at this point in time that hopefully most people know who the hell we are.
Yeah. Well, I love it. For those of you who don't know, it is this fantastic venue. It's really hard to just like put it in a box, but basically it's this, it's this venue that you're sitting on grass. You're sitting on grass or on lawn chairs. Me and my people, we tend to meet up. We throw a blanket on the floor. We bring a bunch of food and we talk, we eat, we laugh. And then at some point we get up and we race to the front row so we can dance.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I love the work that you've done. I mean, even just, I think it was last year when you shared this incredible picture, you guys went through this whole remodeling. You had these new lights that went in, and it was like a whole different venue.
And just wait till this year. I mean, there's even more changes and upgrades coming to the venue. I think that the venues like this, they evolve over time, and as you grow, they grow, and this was a really difficult project to pull off, and the original vision of it, there just wasn't the funding there from the get-go to execute on all of that, and this year, most of what I had originally planned for is going to be in place, which is great. And I get to come and sit on the lawn with you.
Yes.
And instead of sitting in the back, which is nice.
I love it because I've got friends that, different people that I go with depending on whoever's performing. But there's this one crew in particular when we show up and, everybody loves to cook or, bake. So someone's bringing something and it's just this big, massive feast,
I absolutely love that. I spent 9 years or 8 years, 8 or 9 years at City Park Jazz running that program, and a lot of what I saw there, I wanted to replicate over at Levitt when I had this idea, and part of that is like this feeling of real community and making it truly feel like a living room or a dining room for a family of friends to be able to do this stuff and cook and come and hang out and chat. And you can go to all different spaces within the venue and have the type of experience that you want to have, which is kind of unique. You don't see that very often.
Yeah. And that's exactly why I love it, is because it's exactly like you said. One, it's comfortable. I mean, you're not having to stand and fight people, standing on top of concrete. You're on this grass and you literally can sit. If you want to get a real good view, you sit up front. If you just want to chill, you sit up way in the back. If you want to dance, we all know that you go sit on the left side because everybody on the left side.
Everybody on the left side likes to dance. And
Yeah.
it's different. Like you think about Red Rocks and as great of a venue as it is and world class. I can't think of a time that I ever sat on those hard benches at Red Rocks and didn't walk away with a backache. So
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to provide as much space as we can for our patron base. And I try to like to put Levitt in perspective, like size wise to
Mhm.
Red Rocks. Of course, Red Rocks has a lot of components that Levitt doesn't have, especially from an infrastructure standpoint. But Red Rocks is about 81,000 square feet in their
Mhm.
audience plane, and their capacity is 9,500. And our audience plane is 281,000 square feet, I believe.
Mm.
Um, and we cap it at 7,500 people. Now, we don't have the bench seating and all of that, but with all of that space, it really does allow you to move around freely and lay down and be a little bit more comfortable and it provides really a great space for families to come out and kids to go do
Mhm.
their own thing. I think about like when I was a kid, growing up and going to soccer games and baseball games and stuff that we did on the weekend as a family. There was always that component of the kids kind of take off and play and the parents
Mhm.
didn't have to worry about them. And
Right.
in today's world, I'm almost 48 years old. In today's world, it's a little bit different. And, we were able to kind of create that type of an environment that
Yeah.
there is still the walls and the safety and the security, but to be for the parents to be able to come out and have a really great time and the kids still to be able to enjoy it, but still be kids
Uh-huh.
was really important to
Yeah.
the thought process of how we designed the bowl and how we wanted people to interact throughout the space.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that I really love about it too is I've noticed there's always like that one middle spot where all these little kids gather at some point and they're just like rocking out dancing and they're doing cartwheels and it's just so cool to see kids enjoying the same music that their parents can do because that's not always possible, with other venues you have to be 21 and over. And so that's the really cool thing that I like about the Love It is that when you have these concerts and you can introduce this music that you love, for example, I'm really excited. Thievery Corporation. Oh my God. These guys, sorry, I'm going to try not to
They're
get too
so,
excited.
they're
But
so good. They're so good, and it
it's
was.
so but that's what I mean. Like in other venues, you have to be 21 and over.
Mhm.
This is going to be the chance for those of us with kids, teenagers, whatever, that we're going to get to all sit together, just like you said, like a family, eating, enjoying music. And I love that. It for me, it reminds me of drive-ins when I was a kid.
Oh, that's cool.
You
I
know?
like that thought process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like we would back up the vehicle, like whether it be a van, usually it's a truck, back up the truck, pop it down and get all the blankets, all the lawn chairs, and then some other family or relatives come next door. And pretty soon you got like two or three cars of your relatives or friends, and you're watching the movie, but at the same time you're eating. And then those of us that, kids, we would take off and go to the playground. And that's what we would do, you know?
Mhm.
But it reminds me of that because I see that every single time. You've got this group of kids that are always gathering towards the center, and it's just funny. It's funny to see them dance. They don't care, you know?
Yeah. They haven't found their shame yet.
That's
Like,
okay with me. That's
some of
okay.
us had. I mean, I started working on this project in 2012, and
Yeah,
here
I
we
saw
are
that. You
in.
you shared about that on social
Yeah.
media. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a labor of love for 10 years, and I've been working in nonprofit music in this community since 2006. So I've been around for a long time, and this idea of Levitt and getting it out of the ground was, so much part of my frontal lobe for so long.
Mhm.
And to be able to get it to the point to where people know what it is and it's stable. It was it's a right time to kind of walk away from it, and I really wanted to fade away like that Homer Simpson into the bushes kind of thing. And I had a friend tell me when I told him, I really just want to fade away. He said, you really can't just fade away. I thought, oh
Mhm.
man, I probably need to say something publicly, and I just don't. You know Levitt is about it's about a community. It's a community asset. It's for the community. It's intended to be owned and curated by the community. And um, when you spend all this time building it and taking ownership over it, it's difficult to walk away, but it's
Mm.
even more difficult to walk away the way that maybe you want to.
Yeah.
And by that I mean just fading into the distance, and I can't do that. So
No, you can't. You cannot.
and
You can try to drive off into the sunset, but you're
yeah,
not going to be fading off into anywhere because you
yeah,
know a lot of us we associate that pavilion with you. We know that was and is your baby. The music too, just the different genre of music that's been there. It's educational, obviously. I can tell that there was thought and heart put into it.
thank you for that. Yeah, there was a lot of fun put into it, and blood, sweat, and tears, and
Mm,
everything that comes along with it. And it's been a labor of love for a long time. And when I left City Park Jazz, I told somebody that as nonprofit leaders, we're just really stewards of all of this. But I think that really
mm,
extends to the for-profit piece too. Like, you die and you don't take any of this with you. You don't take the
yeah.
memories with you. You don't take um, the accolades or money or anything else with you. The best thing that you can do is leave those institutions in the best shape possible and hope that they're doing really great things for the community after you go. And
Mhm.
uh, I made my mark on Levitt, and it was time to go and go try to do something else. I guess I don't even know where I'm going.
Yeah.
So we'll figure it out. But you saw that my post that I made, and those of you who are listening to this who are not friends of mine on social media probably can't see it, but um, it's
Do you want to read it?
yeah. I mean, yeah, sure. I could do
I'd
that.
love to have you read it.
Okay, I am a softie. So yeah, I'll read my statement. I said, I know this is going to come as a surprise to a lot of people. Today, as painful it is, I'm announcing that I'm leaving Levitt effective April 8th. I feel a great sense of pride in what the organization was able to accomplish under my leadership. I want to thank everybody who stood by my side through thick and thin, those who worked long hours to make our stage shine, and to the community for their dedication to our existence and mission. There's been a lot of you, but a special thanks to my wife, Megan, Chase Wessel, Andy Thomas, Jason Zink, and Dan Steinberg. You all bought into this dream that I had and helped make it a reality. On June 21st, 2012, I listened to a pitch where I was being asked to build this amphitheater in Ruby Hill Park, and Ruby Hill Park was not a park I was familiar with at the time. And I was intrigued, but quite honestly, I had no intention of doing anything other than listen. And we were over in Platt Park at Bart Chadwick's house, and Councilman Chris Nevitt had invited me over there, and it was wanting me to do this project for the city. And it was my wife and I's seventh wedding anniversary, and
Mm.
we went over there before we went to dinner. And a few short days later, I called up Chris Nevitt, and I told him that I was in. And in the beginning, they had already started to do a little bit of legwork,
Mm.
and they thought that it was going to be about $4 million. Now, those of you who've never built anything before, when you're building in a city center, especially an amphitheater type space that's on 10 acres of land,
Mm.
uh, 4 million doesn't sound like a lot, but we didn't have to buy the land, which would have been another 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 million. And we thought, hey, 4 million, and we're going to get this thing up and running in a couple of years. And
Mm.
those 2 years turned into 5, and the 4 million turned into 8. And my wife had been asking me all along, how long do you plan on staying around? And I said, 3 to 5 years till we're stable. And here we are. I mean,
Famous
almost
last
10
words.
years, and almost to 10 years. And it truly has been this amazing ride that I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to do. Because I'm sure there's other people that could have done this and maybe could have done it better, but I took with it what I did, and I think I built something really great.
Mhm.
At the time, when Chris Nevitt asked me to do this, I had to sit back and think a lot about it, and like, what could this mean for the community? And I started to get really excited, especially on the west side, where
Mm.
I-25 has kind of always been this dividing line between the
Mhm,
west and the east side. And when I was at City Park, I was really trying to work on this concept of, how can I bring the Latin community over to this side so that
mhm,
there's this really great mixture that it's really representative of what Denver is culturally. And
mhm,
we had the African American population, we had the white population, but no matter what I did, no matter what I tried to book, I wasn't able to cross that bridge. So when I'm looking at building this thing over in Ruby Hill Park, I thought, wow, this is great. It's really right in the heart of the Latin community.
mhm,
And this is a community I think that from a lot of points has been often ignored by the city. You look
mhm,
at the way that Wash Park or City Park are taken care of. And
right.
then you look at Ruby Hill Park, which is the third largest park in our park system at 84 acres. City Park's the largest, followed by Wash, followed by Ruby, and those are the largest parks in the urban core. And then they have much bigger spaces up in the mountains. And I know
Mhm.
entirely too much about Parks and Rec at this point in my life, but I digress. So you look at like how where is the equality
Mhm,
and the social justice when we look at how our city spends our tax dollars and how are we treating communities. And the city had been working on this master plan for Ruby Hill Park that it was pretty impressive. And
mhm,
it was like, oh well, wow, this is really great. They're not only are they going onto the west side and improving Ruby Hill Park, they're coming onto the west side to improve a lot of different public spaces.
right.
And we have to remember what parks are. Parks are public spaces. We own them.
Mhm,
Taxpayers own them. We
mhm,
they exist for us to go and enjoy or contemplate life or
mhm,
watch wildlife or whatever it is. And but at the same time, we've got these giant park spaces and we have these needs for cultural activities in this town. And so to be able to build something that was going to help activate this park in a really purposeful way was really cool. And to be able to bring both the east and the west side together. Um,
right.
and I knew that I could do that through programming. I knew I was in the right spot
Mhm,
because you pop over Santa Fe and you pop over Broadway, you've got Platt Park, Wash Park, you got
mhm,
Baker, you've
right.
got on the other side, you got Athmar, Ruby, Oakland, Overland. So it's just at this really great junction, I think. And
Mhm,
at the same time, the neighborhoods on the east side there, Athmar, Ruby, they were really the last place. Now this is I'm going back 2012, so
you're aging
dating it a
yourself
little
now
bit.
at this
Yeah,
point.
but yeah, in 2012, those were like the places that people could still afford to buy homes in. I'm
Mhm,
not sure if that's true anymore. I haven't looked at home prices, but I'm
mhm,
sure it's not. And Denver's not
yeah,
affordable anymore whatsoever.
mm-mm,
But it was such a cool opportunity. And I thought, hey, I'm going to build this thing. I'm going to get it out of the ground. Um, I'm going to limp through these growing pains, and when I do leave, I want to make sure that the organization's in this financially stable position. And
mhm,
at this point, I've completed every single one of those tasks, and I am a builder and a fixer. I've
mhm,
done that my entire career. I build things and I fix things, and whether it's physically building something or building a business or coming in and fixing a business or that's kind of what I do. And I've never been a maintenance person.
mm,
I just don't have the temperament and the patience for maintaining things. I if I'm gonna get titillated off something, it's gotta be like something that just really tickles my brain and
mhm,
really like pushes me to do really great things for the community. And
mhm,
running these things, I was talking to a friend the other day that I told before I went public, and he said, "Well, you got the best job in the industry." I said, "Yeah, maybe from the outside, but you don't know what I do on a daily basis."
mm,
And it's 365 days a year, and 184 of those are more hours than most people work in a single year.
yeah,
And I have a son who was 4 when I started this, and he's 13 now, and I haven't had a summer with him since he was 8,
mm,
and I was just really tired of being married to my job. And it's painful. it's painful because I have my work family there, and there is this really great um, feeling that you get when you produce shows. When you work, when you sit in my shoes and you have my brain, and you like
Mhm,
how music works, and you like entertaining people, and you've most of your life you've been putting on events.
mhm.
There's a euphoria that comes out of that, but there's always a cost to it. And I'm, you know,
Right.
40, almost 48 years old now, and I have to ask myself, do I see myself doing this into my 50s? And I just don't.
Mhm.
So there, it's time to turn over the reins before the season starts. Everything's set up.
Right.
When people come out there this year and they see that there's two LED walls instead of one, and that they're
Mhm.
bigger, and that the lighting package has been upgraded, and we literally have the best sound system on the market going into Levitt this year. It's a Meyer Panther system, and there's only two of them in the world. They're
What?
brand new systems, and Levitt Pavilion Denver is the first permanent install, and the other one is Ed Sheeran's taken out on tour globally.
Oh,
So
later for that. No.
yeah, so there's like all of these things
That's
that
awesome. Thank you, dude. That's a gift to the community, man.
yeah,
I
and
love it.
we I spent this off season really setting up the organization for
Mm,
success down the road, and there's
for sure.
so many fantastic community minded individuals who work for Levitt. I can't
Mhm,
say enough about the staff and the board, and what Denver Parks and Rec has done for us, and our partnership with Live Nation.
mhm,
Um, all of these just amazing people that I had the pleasure to work with for all these years, and
mhm.
it it kind of sucks to walk away from
Yeah.
when I think about it, but when I get my head in the right spot, I'm making the right decision for
Mm,
me and for my health and for my family. This is a
yeah.
brutal, brutal, brutal industry, and I'm not leaving it. I'm
Mhm.
just going and going to do something else within it as soon as I figure out what that is.
So are you taking a hiatus, a sabbatical?
Yeah, we'll call it a sabbatical.
Okay.
I teach at the University of Colorado, Denver as well, in their
Mhm.
CAM program. So I teach venue and festival management, and I've got a class that doesn't end until the first or second week of May,
Right.
and after that, I'm not planning on doing anything probably until the end of the summer,
Mm,
and
that's a
I'm
nice
gonna yeah, I'm gonna enjoy my time off. My wife and I are very lucky that we have a place in Italy, and we're gonna go over there and spend most of the summer there. And
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna end
yeah,
the podcast now. I can't believe you.
we're gonna sit. It's not as glamorous as it sounds, but
I'm sorry, but it does. It sounds glamorous to me. You guys, you know what's gonna happen is you're gonna like buy a vineyard. We're gonna have next thing you know, you're gonna come up with like Zachar wine or something. I don't know.
yeah, that would be a bad idea actually. But like my heart and my mind are in community building and
Mhm.
uh, nonprofit work, and but I might do for profit stuff. I don't know. I might continue to do
Yeah.
nonprofit stuff. I have no clue. And I've had a lot of people call me and text me and reach out to me today, and ask, what's the underlying thing here? There's nothing underlying.
Yeah.
I'm tired, and I need a break. And during COVID, most people got that break. They
Yes.
got to sit at home, reflect, figure out what they were doing with life. And what I did was I got together with a bunch of friends across the country, or independent venue owners, and we were about a week into COVID, and we knew that things were going to get worse before they were going to get better.
Mhm.
I think we all wish that a pandemic would end like it does in that movie Outbreak, and you find the monkey, and within an hour, you've
I was
created the
waiting for
serums.
that. I was waiting for that.
Which did not happen. But
No.
we were smart enough to know this wasn't going to happen, and I think others were too. And so we started this little thing called NIVA, the National Independent Venue Association, and
Mm,
I spent um, I spent the entirety of the pandemic plus of 2020, all the way to now,
mhm.
but leading from April of 2020 until June, July, August of last year, we were still fighting to get funding out to
Right.
independent venues across the US. And that was on top of my Levitt job, and that's the free feel good stuff. But it was a lot of work, and while
Mhm.
everybody else was sitting at home hoarding toilet paper, um, I was I was on Zoom calls and talking with congressional leaders and state leaders and city leaders, and trying to figure out a pathway forward so we could save arts and culture,
Mhm.
especially when you look at what it means to the state of Colorado and to the city of Denver.
Yeah.
It's the third largest driver of the economy.
Mhm.
Uh, the economic impact it produces is astronomical. Um, the real dollars that it produces within those venues is astronomical.
Right.
The number of jobs that it creates is astronomical.
Yes.
And it, arts and culture is about a $16 billion a year industry in the state of Colorado. And
Mhm.
for perspective, skiing, which people think probably is more than that, is only about 5 billion. So
Mm.
um, the work that was done there to truly save our stages and save our creative economy is
Mhm.
that's the stuff that that was when I really started to see, hey, maybe there's something else out there than just
Mm.
putting on shows. Like, let's get purposeful again, because building Levitt, super important, super important for the
Right.
community. Very mission driven with that. Really had ideas to get this thing out of the ground, but again, I'm not a maintainer, and
Mhm.
so what's that next thing? I don't know, but it'll be something.
One of the reasons why I wanted to do this with you is because I saw the work that you were doing with Niva, and I, for one, appreciate it because one of my side gigs is doing venue management and working festivals, doing selling merch, doing box office. I help out with the UMS. And so, and there's a couple of music festivals that I actually travel, I go to there because I went there a long time ago and now I'm part of the staff. And so I know what it's like to just run one festival. And
Yeah,
with the Levitt, it was like constant, 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 constant.
it's a festival a day.
It
Like,
is. Oh my God. Like I don't even know how you sleep, like
you don't.
I
That's the answer.
I
It's
purposefully only work 3 a year. And I always know like you're not gonna sleep for those 2, 3 days that you're doing that, But there was such a hit that we took in the music industry. Venues were closed. Part of my side job too is I bartend on the side, and so all of that got squashed. Like all the festivals were canceled. Venues were closing. There was no bartending shifts. There's those of us that did venue stage management. There was nothing.
yeah.
And for a minute there, it was like, is this going away for good? Like, is this gone forever? What is
It
happening? And
it
then
felt that way, didn't it? For a
it
while.
did. It scared me and it was sad. Like I started getting depressed and then places like Three Kings closed and Skylark and just all these places and I was like, "Oh my god, they're all going to go away one by one." And I for one one of the reasons why I really came to appreciate you in the pavilion was because it provided that community that we were missing. And I remember, I can't remember which band it was, but I was in line and it was like the first concert. It was like the first live music. And I was the first person in line. And I remember standing there and people were lining up. And so one of my friends, their teenager was there and they were just rolling their eyes and they're like, oh, don't want to be here. And I was, practically yelling at them, like, what are you talking about? This is the first performance in 2021, like live music. It's been over a year and we're right here and you're in line and this is happening. Like, we're back, baby.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like,
It
but
was
I
such a
saw
good
the
year for
hustle.
us too. It
Yeah.
was
But I
like,
saw the hustle that you did
yeah,
and it was very unselfish. And even though some other people may not have seen it, but I did. Like I saw a glimpse and pieces of you hustling, doing the legislation, doing this, doing that. And to me, it wasn't just about you saving your ass. It was obvious that you saw this genuine danger and need. And you stepped up, dude. You stepped up.
We were gonna, it's funny about that. I don't want to brag on ourselves or my crew or me or anything, but we were gonna be fine.
Mm,
There was between what we had and the donations that were coming in, we had enough money to get through about a year.
mhm,
Now, a year into the pandemic, if you know Save Our Stages didn't happen and other things, then I would have had
mhm,
problems. But my commitment to my team was that I'm not going to furlough anybody and I'm not going to lay anybody off. And if I spend the last dollar in the bank account and the organization goes away, then the organization goes away, because it's always people over profits, it's people over
mhm,
companies always. And so many contract workers that I have, and bartenders. You mentioned being a bartender or a stagehand or a stage manager.
mhm,
I don't think that most people realize that these individuals, they work at 10, 15, 20 different places over the
mhm.
course of the year.
Yeah.
And unemployment doesn't necessarily really help them.
Right?
And normally, I mean,
Mhm,
luckily in COVID, there was some relief for them. But it's an ecosystem, and there's not as many people who work these full-time jobs with benefits that you would think. So
right.
uh, coming in and saying, "Hey, I'm a big enough pain in the ass that I know how to navigate, and I know politicians, and I've worked enough in this realm before that I
Mhm,
have enough information to be dangerous, and let's get in there and just make this happen." And
mhm.
I know how politicians work. They don't care about feel good stories,
Right,
unless it's on the news and it gives them a 5-second, 10-second clip. what
right.
they what they truly care about is impact in money and numbers, and how do these industries um, collectively impact their state. Where are the jobs numbers? What are we
Yeah.
going to lose here? Where are we going to lose economic impact? So from the get-go, for me, it was, hey, I know how to do this, and I have the time because I'm not producing shows.
Mhm.
So I can sit here at home and do nothing, and rewatch every episode of Seinfeld, or I can get off my ass and utilize my brain power to try to help people as
Yeah.
much as I can. And luckily, there were people across the country who were like-minded, and we
Mhm,
call ourselves the fuckers, and there's 40 of us. And there's lots of people who worked at Neva, in other regards, that did amazing work.
mhm.
But the fuckers were the relentless few who stuck with it, and really helped to push this SVOG across the finish line, and really helped to save our stages. And ultimately, you save a stage, you save a lot of jobs.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just the 9 people who work for me full time, it's the 170 people that work for me during the season, and then the hundreds of people that work at every single other venue in town.
Yeah.
We had to save them, especially independent music.
Mhm.
If people understand, take a step back and understand, how this industry works. Uh, you Independent venues, independent promoters are where every artist gets their start.
Right.
Nobody goes right to an AEG stage or a
Mhm,
Live Nation stage. That should be their goal, because they can get on these big national tours. And
mhm,
we could go back and forth about the power of independence, or is it a side of the industry that's in decline or not? But
mhm,
the reality is that the independent side is what either creates careers or maintains careers, and
mhm.
carves out some kind of a livable wage for certain artists.
Right.
And not every artist is going to make a livable wage, because not everybody wants to buy everybody's art. And
Mhm,
but for the art that people do want to buy, you look at a band like Thievery Corporation,
mhm.
um, or a guy like Charlie Tuna, or La Santa Cecilia. Um, these are acts that they're not playing stadiums, and they're not playing in giant venues, but
Mhm.
they've figured out how to carve a living out for themselves, and a lot of that's on the back of independent venues across the U.S. So
Right.
if the independent venues went away, it really was going to disrupt how this ecosystem worked.
Right.
It was going to destroy entry level. It was going to destroy middle class.
Hmm.
And then what are you left with?
Right.
You're left with radio and large promoters telling you who to like instead of you
Gross.
discovering it on your own, which
No.
is not what we want. And look, I got a lot of friends who work for major corporations across the U.S. and internationally, and I think they all do great work.
I don't.
Um,
That's a deal breaker. That's a deal breaker for me, y'all.
they do great work. I mean, it's a different setup. When you pay an artist $1.2 million to do a show like you
No.
have to do for some of these large artists, it has to be a corporation that has the money that can afford to take that risk, and
Yeah.
independents can't do that.
Okay. So right when COVID hit, I feel like I had coordinated this perfect life. Like my life was exactly how I wanted it to be. I was doing this, I was doing that, and a big part of that was working music festivals, working at venues, on the side, pitching at the last minute, they need a bartender, they need this. Yeah, 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 doing that. Um, and that for me took, a little bit of life journey to get to that place of where, okay, for me, this is how I'm happy in my life. This is what brings me joy. And I had it all set up. It was going good. And then COVID hit and it took away not just finances, but that experience of being in live music, being around it. And for
Yep.
independent, you know, seeing these new bands, discovering new music, that was gone for at least a year. I mean, I was ready to just cash it in. I was like, if this is how life's going to be from now on, I'm out. Like, I'm done. And there were so many artists that I saw and that I know. I know people that are bartenders or whatever. There were so many of us that we ended up taking jobs at Sprouts or whatnot. And it was so funny because I would immediately get drawn to certain people. And then I find out this person is, does venue management. This person's a bartender. It's like, oh, no wonder. No wonder we
Yeah.
all get along. But
Yeah, I that isn't that the truth. I mean, that's that was a reality for so many people.
yeah, man,
Yeah.
at one point it got so ugly with people having to wear masks, people just having a fit. And I was working at the store. And for a second, I was covering cashiers. Yeah. And it got really ugly. And so, me being the person that I am, I walked up to the manager and I said, seriously, when I was bartending, we used to have a tip jar. If we're going to have to deal with this shit with people yelling at us, like, can I have a tip jar? And he looked at me and he was just like, no. I'm like, but
Why the hell not? Why the hell not?
I
You should.
tried, everybody. I tried, but it didn't happen. Um,
It's it's like that. I have a woman who works for me, who's my operations manager, but she had been a hand for me for I think like 4 or 5 years
mhm,
before COVID, and COVID hit, and we reopened, and there were only two venues open for
mhm,
most of the summer.
yeah,
It was yeah. There were some smaller ones open and doing some outdoor stages, but for all intents and purposes, Red Rocks and Let It were really the only two that were open.
yeah.
And I called her up and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And she said, I'm working at Whole Foods." And I said, "How much are they paying you?" And she told me, and I said, "All right, I'll pay you more. Quit your job now and come down here and be my operations manager for the rest of
Uh-huh.
the summer." And she, like the joy that she exuded from, holy crap, I get to go back to working in a venue again,
Yeah.
was amazing. And I think that we saw that with a lot of people. We saw it with our
Mhm.
bartenders. Oh, we're back. We get to do this. We don't have to paint houses. We don't have to do this stuff that we were doing to get by anymore. We get to come back to the venue and do the
Yeah.
venue work. And I think that the people that we had there last year all felt grateful that they were
Mhm.
back doing it, because so many others didn't have
Oh,
that
yeah.
opportunity.
You could
And
you could tell, you could see it, like, even from the guys that were running the music, and under that, little pop-up tent that you have, the engineers and whatnot. I mean, you could just see that. You could see they're just, like, breathing sighs of relief, and they're just smiling, and they're like, "Yes, this is what we're used to," you know?
yeah, I had to remind everybody a lot of times last year, because look, it is a stressful industry. It's not for the faint of heart.
Mhm.
and you know this. You've done this work.
Ah,
Um, like live production stuff, it's hard and it's
yeah.
tricky and it's long hours. And when you're outside, you're in this brutal Colorado sun day in and day
Mhm.
out, and um, people can go sour and get pissed off and
Yeah.
yell and stuff, and you just have to remind them, look, what we get to do for a living, what we're blessed to be able to do for a living, is to to create a day, an evening, and a space for
Mhm.
people to come out and forget about whatever it is that's bothering them for a
Yeah.
day. So smile and remember that we're lucky
Mhm.
that we get to do this. We don't have to sit in cubicles and punch clocks and all of that.
Yes.
We get to entertain people.
It was a matter of just being in that environment of live music, you
Hmm.
know? There's and I appreciate all the different artists that were doing, live streams, of them singing and whatnot, and sometimes I would catch it, but there is a m I didn't really hear people saying this, but for me, it made me miss it more, you know? I would just be like, "Oh, thank you for doing the live stream," but it's different when you're in that room, when you
It
hear the vibe and the music and everyone's sweating or dancing, and you know what I mean? It's just a different, vibe about it.
it lacks, like, music is a live music especially is about this shared
Mhm.
energy between artist, performer, and audience, and audience and performer. And
Right.
when we did some of the live stream stuff, I was never a fan of it. I had a lot of friends that in the industry thought, "Oh, this is the next thing." But 10 years ago, these are the same people who thought that put an Oculus system on your eyes and virtually tagging into a concert that was happening somewhere in the world was the next thing, which I thought was strange as well,
Yeah.
um, because it's this shared energy and
Mhm.
how the music moves through people's body and the
Yeah.
reaction of that music moving through people's body that comes back to the artist.
Mhm.
And if you talk to any artist, I remember Lulu from Thievery Corp is a friend of mine, and
Mhm.
I'd been wanting to get them on my stage for a long time, and this industry just doesn't work like that. You just don't call up, you just don't have a friend in a band and call them up and say, "Oh yeah, you got to play my stage." It just doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. So I wanted them to play for a long time, and when they finally did, we sat down and talked about that. And she was telling me how when they try to do anything live stream or anything, that it's just missing that piece that
Mhm.
gives them the energy that they need to have a really great show.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that we've been able to push through this and we can start bringing people back together again to experience that.
Mhm.
I look forward to it. I love it. I think that's the hardest part about leaving this position that I
Mhm.
had was knowing that uh, I don't get to pull the strings anymore, but
Mhm.
um, and I don't get to create that party anymore. But I will always have that chance to sit on that lawn and feel what you feel and
Yeah.
what other patrons feel. And I think when you've been on the backside of the industry for so long, that's the one piece that you forget about.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because to this day, I think probably the pavilion's the only place where I'm comfortable just being in the audience. But at other places, I'm looking to see like where's the stage manager and where's this and where's that and so I got to get into. I don't know. Sometimes it takes me a minute to just like relax. You're not a part of the crew. You're just here to enjoy the music. So, and I don't know if you finished reading the post, but can we get back to that and talk about it? You take it. You read the rest of it, and
Well, I I think that I got through. I was talking. I wasn't really reading it all. I
I
was,
know it's
but
okay.
I know what I. But it's right on with what I was saying. In
Mhm.
in the post. But I just ended it. By saying that when you work on the live side of music and you do what I do, you have to be married to your job, and
Mhm.
I'm just not interested in being married to it anymore. I've got
Mhm.
this family that I love, and during COVID, I became a grandfather, and I want to spend time with my granddaughter, and my daughter is high school teacher down in the
Mm,
Dallas area. So, summers are free for her and free for my granddaughter to be able to come up here or go down there and see each other and hang out. And that's hard to do when you're working the hours that I work in the summer. And my
yeah.
son, he's going to be 14 in June, and off to high school soon. And
Mhm.
I want to spend, we all know how my daughter's 27, so I know how fast high school goes for
Right.
your kids. And
Yeah.
I really want to be there for my family a little bit more. And,
Mhm.
a few people have asked me, where am I going? And I don't know. I'm searching
Mhm.
for it. When I find the spot, I'm certainly going to let everybody know. And I'm in no hurry. I want to take time to evaluate opportunities and land in the space that's best for me.
Mhm.
I've spent my entire career building and fixing things, and there are plenty of places that need both, but Levitt doesn't need either of those. So somebody else can come in here and start to take over this organization and put their mark on it. And
Mhm.
I'm excited to see that. You kind of have blinders on when you're running things,
Yeah.
and you have your ideas and your goals and your missions and
Mhm.
what you're trying to do with it. And I'm interested to see what this next person's going to do with it, and um, how they're going to mold it and take it into its next iteration. I'm just happy that I had the chance to do what I was able to do there. And
Yeah.
um, there comes that time where if you start questioning why you're doing something,
Mm.
it that's the time I think that um, we need to reevaluate things. Again,
Mhm.
we don't take any of this shit with us when we die. Your eulogy, nobody's going to say, um, he was really great at his job and he really loved his job. I want him to be like he was a great father and he's a great husband. He was really good for his community. And
Mhm.
I didn't want to die producing a show at Levitt.
Yeah.
And not that there's anything wrong with that. It just it you know
Mhm.
it's I've been in this industry for a long, long time, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of work to be done.
Mhm.
Whether it's in this community or somewhere else in Colorado or somewhere else in another state, I have no clue.
No, you're not
Um,
allowed to leave Denver.
that's what my son keeps telling me. He's like, well, what are you gonna do? He was really upset about it. He's like, well, what are you gonna do? And I said, I don't know, because
Probably got nervous, yeah.
he was 4 when I started this, so he's only known me um, as running Levitt. And
Yeah.
you know, I've been doing this for, I think I did the math. It's like 20.8%
Jeez.
of my life.
You're old,
Um,
Chris.
I feel old. I feel old. 20% of your life doing something, though.
Yeah.
It's that's long, man. I mean, I've probably got what average male lives to, I don't even know what it is, 77 now.
Yeah.
So I've
Yeah.
I've got like I've got a good solid 30 years left,
Yes.
hopefully, knock on
Yes.
wood. And there's, I don't know what it is yet, but there's something out there that it's calling at me, and it wants me to come do it. And
Yeah.
um I just wasn't it's hard to say that you're not happy, because that wasn't the thing. I
Mhm.
just wasn't fulfilled in the way that I wanted to be fulfilled, and I think that showed in a lot of ways.
You're obviously one of those that when people give you a challenge, some people go, "Oh my god." And then there's some people like you, like, rub your hands together and like, "All right, let's see."
I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out, whatever it is, even if
Yeah.
I have it's but I think that, we as humans, we need to challenge ourselves. I have this really good friend who made a tremendous amount of money in his life doing some really great things, and he retired very, very young. And
Mhm.
within 3 years he was back working for somebody else, and I
Mm.
asked him why, and he said, because I go crazy if I'm not out here trying to do something. And
Yeah.
I think I'm the same way. I'm not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but um, you know, I want to be out there doing stuff probably until the day that I die, and
Mhm.
I want to constantly be creating and
Right.
building and creating and creating. And when you have that kind of left brain mentality,
Mhm.
um, it's hard when you're not creating anymore.
Yeah.
And when I was building Levitt, and I was raising money for it, and I was putting together programming and figuring out what I wanted to do with it, that was this beautiful creative process that, luckily worked out. I could have failed a million times. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think on another podcast, I had talked to somebody about, all the times where I thought that this project was dead when I was
Mhm,
working on it, that there's no way we're going to do this. This is insurmountable.
mhm.
Um, and all that self-doubt really, really fueled me to make sure that I got this thing across the finish line and that I got it stabilized. And wow, what a ride it's been. It's been fucking amazing.
There was something about COVID. It was like we had all of this time on our hands, and we all started, like, looking at our lives. We all started examining what we needed, what we didn't need. It just seemed like we had this time to really take a good look at what we're doing.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of people that I've seen in the last 6, 9 months that they're making changes just like you. They're like, "I did this, but it's time to move on. And I did this, and now it's time for something different." When I saw your post, I got sad. Initially, I went, "No, oh my God." But then when you shared why, I understood. By the time I finished reading your post, I was clapping for you. I was applauding you. That's, you see it. You're not trying to um, hold on to it for dear life, trying to make something out of it that's not there anymore. And I love that instead of saying, "Okay, I'm going to start this business," you went family time.
Yeah.
I absolutely respect that. I respect that so much about you, that you are using this time to unwind and appreciate and take in, and you're going to take your time with it. And then when the time is right, then you're going to do something, but you're not going to rush it. And I just think that because of that, whatever it is that you do next is going to be awesome.
So it's super bittersweet. And I have this really good friend who lives in the Bay Area who called me today, and he kind of echoed what you said. And he said, he's been thinking about this stuff. And
Mhm,
you know what it takes to just walk away from something. I think it's hard for us as humans, because we're constantly thinking about our sanity, and but more importantly, safety and security.
mhm,
And to walk away from something when you don't have anything is not what I was taught from my father and the whole boomer generation. What we were
mhm,
taught from them is, hey, you never leave something unless you have something. But
mhm,
what do you have if you don't have anything? Life in general, and
mhm,
and what's our purpose here, and what's our meaning here. And my purpose here is to have a really great family, and to make sure that we all love and care about each other, and that we get to have the experiences that we want to have throughout our life. And sometimes it's best just to walk away from things, even if it's scary, because it is scary. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I don't have a paycheck. And Dahl, I don't know if you know Bart Dahl, but he was the guy who really discovered and built Nathaniel's career before he took off. And Bart called me and said, "Hey, I know there's something underlying here." And I said, "There's not, man. There's just not." I think that sometimes if we sit back and we think about what we're doing in our lives,
Mhm.
and we really take time to evaluate and figure out what we want to do, instead of just taking that first thing that's thrown in front of us,
Yeah,
that's where we can really find inner peace, and know that we're driving our lives, and we're
right.
not allowing these external factors of to drive our lives. All the clothes and the computers and the cars and all, it's just shit. And I've been thinking a lot about that kind of stuff over the past year, just the way that we consume as Americans. And how do we step back from that from time to
Mhm.
time, and just reset and say, all
Yeah.
right, what really matters, what
Mhm.
truly really matters in life? Breathing
Mhm.
and love.
I decided to step down from this editor position that was offered to me, for a publication. It was just so much. And I thought, the title is nice, the work that I'm doing is good, and I am getting paid. I'm working for home. This is what I thought I wanted, but I still wasn't happy. I didn't have anything lined up. All I knew is everything in me was saying it's time to walk away.
God,
Like
doesn't that feel so good?
the moment that I that I acknowledged it and I said it, and I felt that weight lifted, and I was like, "That was it." Like,
It's a
that's what I
marvelous
needed.
feeling. It's a marvelous feeling, and,
Yeah.
you know, I obviously knew about this much longer than what I told people, but
Mhm.
after yesterday, I was, writing my little goodbye note, and the only like, I don't want a press release, I don't want it to
Mhm.
really be in a newspaper and,
Yeah.
or an article, although, they keep calling me. Um, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to talk about it today, but,
Mhm.
it was I wrote this thing and I sat there and hovered over that post button, you know? And then when I finally hit it, it felt like an elephant took his leg off of my chest, and I thought,
Yeah.
"Wow, wow, that felt good."
It literally felt like a ton of bricks. Like I had all this weight on me, and then somebody just went and flipped it, and it all
It's such
just
a
fell
great
off.
feeling, isn't it? To
Mhm.
be in control of your destiny is the most powerful thing that you can do in your life. It's the most powerful tool that we all possess within our box, and most people never take the opportunity to pull it out.
For me, being indigenous, I'm like, that's decolonizing. You're cutting the strings. You're walking away from corporate. You're walking away from the rat ways, from everything, and you're just like, "You know what? I'm not gonna be a part of the problem anymore. I'm out."
Yeah, and it's God, what a
Liberating.
great feeling. What a great feeling to not be part of the problem anymore,
Yeah, dude.
right? And yeah, man, I could talk to you, offline for hours just about, how our society's set up and how fucked
Yeah.
up it is, and, and the way that they do things.
Yes.
We really truly live in this indoctrinated, you know, society where we're all brainwashed to some level, but to take
Mhm.
that power back for yourself and decide what you want to do and how you want to live your life is so very, very important. And I
Mhm.
hope that anybody who's young that may be listening to this, especially those in your 20s and 30s,
Mhm.
is take control of yourself. Take
Yeah.
control of your own life. And if I hadn't taken control of my own life, I would have never started Levitt. I would have never have helped with City Park Jazz. I think that my child and probably your children have good role models that way because we teach our children that you don't have to worry about the beat that's going on behind you. Make up your
Mhm.
own. As I got into my early 30s, it was like fuck that. To do what I want to do and how I want
Yeah.
to do it, and utilize those things that I have within me to really help my community and provide opportunities for those other people who feel like they have to do things that they don't want to do. Hmm.
Yes, some people were never gonna be accepted by, but I'm happy, and life is fulfilling, and
That's all that matters, right? If
you know
you're
what I mean?
happy and if you're fulfilled.
Yeah.
But thank you so much today for having me.
Music is medicine for me, so I appreciate what you bring to the rest of the community, and thank you for all your vigorous years, hours, weeks, months of work.
I'm still here. I'm a cultural commissioner for the city and county of Denver.
Mhm,
We do a lot of work on the public art projects. I'm really, really passionate about what Alfredo Reyes is doing over at LCAC,
mm,
at the Latin Cultural Arts Center.
okay.
Um, there's some really, really badass people in this community who are doing super great things, and I encourage everybody to get out there and get to know our artistic community and follow local artists and buy merch and go to their shows and go to art gallery openings and pay attention to what's happening in our art scene because it's pretty fucking vibrant. And I think that once we get out of ourselves and we realize that how lucky we are to live in a city and state that not only support the arts in the way that they do, but in a city and state that have the type of art projects that we
Mhm,
have and the types of artists who live here, we are really, really lucky. We have
yeah,
a fantastic muralist in this town, fantastic artists and dancers, and it's just I feel so blessed and lucky to have an opportunity not just to live here, but um, to help these artists by creating spaces for them Thank you all so much, and thank you for everything that you do. You're a badass activist. You've always got your hands on the pulse of shit, and you're always tagging people and making sure that things are getting out there. And the messaging that you've helped spread with Ian Tefeo and for Pine Ridge and for everything that's been going on with Indigenous people in this country over the past few years. Greatly
Mm.
appreciate you for that, because it's something that everybody, no matter what the color of your skin is or where you were born, should be paying attention to it.
You've been listening to the Social Podcast. I'm your host, Mona Cedillo. As always, we want to give a shout out to Armando Lopez for giving us those fine tunes at the beginning. And we were listening to Chris Zacher. This is episode 9 of the Social Podcast. Again, thank you for joining us. As always, until next time, be good to each other.